Can everybody in Zoom land see the presentation in full screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, brilliant. I think that I'm going why don't you start us off?
Yes. Okay. So, thank you very much for being here, and also thanks to my colleagues. I think they are also present on this Zoom. When the questions arrive, we will ask them to put their cameras on so that we can see them as well. But let's move on now. So, as an overview, first I want to tell something about the project we are involved in, thanks to Rasmus Bernander from Bayreuth University. He's the principal investigator. So that's my Modality in Swahili project. And then I want to give some examples of what we are interested in, discuss the diachronic corpus, where we are and what the challenges are, and then apply this to some epistemic modal adverbs, pengine, huenda, and labda. So, let's read about. So the modality in Swahili project is about variation, change, and transfer. So what's written there is part of the project proposal. I always have to be bold when you write a project proposal. To be sure to get it written, it tends to be a bit bold. So offer the first detailed and comprehensive account of expressions of modality in Swahili, focusing on the role of contact-induced variation and change through time and space, and then the methodology is corpus-driven, and then we intend to build the world's largest diachronic Swahili corpus. And then also do comparative typological work, also field work, targeting East African languages that show Swahili influence in their modal systems. We call ourselves the Swahili-Mods. So Rasmus Bernander, Gilles-Maurice, Schryver, myself, Ponsiano, sorry, there's a mistake, typo in the name, Kanijo, and Minah, Nabirye, also from Bayreuth University. Okay, it's on Swahili, of course. Swahili, as you have seen here during the conference as well, there's Swahilis, it's not just one entity, so there's fragmentation, so that means also that Swahili is changed through contact with other languages, and it might be a recipient of modal markers, but otherwise there's always also convergence to Swahili towards Swahili, and that means that Swahili may also be giving modal markers to other languages. So, and then the other thing, modality, it's organized around the core concepts of possibility and necessity. I'll give some examples for people who are not so familiar with it, but it is not as well studied as standard aspects in Bantu languages, including Swahili. So there's a descriptive component where we want to just know how does Swahili and these other East African languages, how do they express things like, so you have, for example, participants' internal possibility is something like she can sing very well. That's like a capacity, a participant's internal capacity. And then participants' external is if you bend out of the window, you can see the bridge. It's like, and then the geometric one is more like you may come in, it's like you have the permission to come in, and then epistemic, and we are interested in that, especially today, is more like she might come, but I'm not sure. So that's the descriptive part, but then we also want to look at parts of change. So how do these meanings develop? What are the pre-modal meanings? Possibly also within the modal domain, are there changes towards, they call it subjectification, increased subjectification, and are there also post-modal meanings? So that's the second image you see there schematically. And then, and that's also original about the project, is that we also want to look at it in relation to contact-induced change and it promises to be a fertile field. Why? Because there is this borrowability hierarchy of functional categories, and modality figures first. So it is a category that is prone to borrowing, which promises so that there's a lot going on through contacts. So to show some examples of work that has already been done, Rasmus has published an article in Swahili Forum about lazima, and that's just to show this examples of in and out of Swahili, and you can really nicely show it with lazima. It came into Swahili from Arabic, but it went out of Swahili to a lot of other East African Bantu languages, so this is not a complete list. You can go on, there's really many languages that have lazima, and where we can show that it really comes from through phonological change, sound changes, and it comes from Swahili. So, and it also goes to non-Bantu languages. They have also inherited lazima. So, and then another example is this weza. Weza is also a loan from Arabic. And there, what we are showing, what we want to show here is that these, what I said, like these thoughts of change. So here you have older, early, middle, recent. When I discuss the diachronic corpus, I will get back to it. So it's this time periods, they're not very precise yet. So we are working on that. But so to give you an idea, the green is the lexical meaning, that's about strengths like una weza, no, are you able, can you cope with it, can you handle it? And we mean the lexical meaning that refers to uses of weza where it is not in a double verb construction, so not followed by an infinitive or another verb. And then you have the participants internal, that's the next, from the bottom, the next color, and there's an example 10 is an example. Aliweza kuimba kwa sauti nzuri na kwa utaratibu, as I said, so being able to sing. And then you have participants external, kulipoanza kuwa mwanga kidogo, tuliweza kuyaona yale yaliyotuzunguka. So when it became light, then we were able, but that's an external circumstance, providing that possibility. And then beyond it, mtani anaweza kumtania mtani wake, so it may, that's something that he's allowed to do. And then the epistemic one, nimejani yaweza ikawa kiapo kimesha sadifu. So I thought that it might be that all has already been or has been fulfilled. So that is this uncertainty that I didn't combine with the thinking, it's clear, so I'm not sure. So now, those are examples. And then, so this diachronic Swahili corpus, that's to show like we, until now, we have made, and that's based on all the work, like it's especially Gilles-Maurice described from Bernander University, he's a Corpus building expert. We made this division. Also, within the recent and the middle, we tried also to have a geographical balance distribution. And then for the dates, the older is kind of 19th century and older, so there it's very big divisions. And then early is the beginning of the 20th century, middle there, Shaban Robert would be there, the 1950s also, and then recent is until now. So, as I said, not very precise, but we are working on that. So, here are examples of early, and there are examples of older. I can just look a bit to have an idea. I think that's so nice of being here that there's a lot of people that know a lot about literature, so they know these works and they can also help us. And there's a lot that has been prepared. I'll talk more about how we prepare it, but to be added to the older parts. So, but there's challenges. So first it's time consuming. What do we need to do? We have to, that's a very easy one that Gilles-Maurice described, and Nabirye gave it to me as kind of teaching me how to do it. So that's like it's like a child who enter, and then you do the easy ones. First, this is an easy one to do, so what you have to do, you have to scan it, but very properly, kind of get all the, if there's writings in there, you have to get it out, and so you scan it, and then you have the Omnipage. We use the Omnipage program to OCR it, to digitize it in fact, and there's a, Gilles-Maurice has developed a Swahili spelling checker, that's a spelling checker, so that also helps. And then, okay, what comes out, then in the end we have a text file that we can use in linguistics to search. But so, as I said, this is an easy one, but then I put one, this is from Bernander. And why is that more difficult? Because if you use it in the Omnipage program, and, so you have to make these columns, and then also when there's special symbols or when there's illustration that you have to select as an image. So it takes for a page, it really takes a lot of time. So imagine a full book, and you see OCR being done by one. Unfortunately, there's already some months that it's being done by them. So it really is a lot of work. So that's time consuming, and then there's also the genre. So it is literary Swahili, the older source. It's not always the best sources to study things like modality or. And it's some the words what we work with are also critical editions, and there it's the goal is to present, of course, the contents of the text. So sometimes these critical editions will take from different versions, we'll put them together to have the full text. So and then but the biggest problem for us, because we want to make these nice visions in time, is that the dating issue. So this is oral literature. When has it been written down? But it's older than when it has been written down, but even it's often very unclear. So we have these practical approaches that where we have recent publications like Serena Talento, we have Clarissa, also Ahmed's Zukov, and some also. When people date it, for sure, then we can use that. So, and then there's because it is literary Swahili, there's also the question like, are we then using standard Swahili, are we somehow comparing apples and oranges? So questions there. So now let us apply it, but then I don't do these parts of change now because we look at the older sources. So only in the early and the older, and then we look at pengine, labuda, labda, huenda, and I also added yamkini. So these, what are the current sources of epistemic? I should have added, when Rasmus has written an article about it, it appeared in 2025, of epistemic possibility adverb in Eastern languages. You have intersective quantifiers like Swahili, like pengine, like some and other. That's typical also in Bantu languages, so that's common verbs of perception that then get petrified. Of course, weza isn't, so that's why it's between, we will not look at weza now, but it could be a source, like wezekana as well. And then contact-induced change, like labuda, labda, yamkini. I'm not sure whether I should, maybe I should move on. So there's the ones we are not, we can come back to them, we're not interested in them for now. But so then let's look at them, like how many times do we find them? I don't have too many statistics because I'm always looking at the same amount of data. So it was so, when I had 18 hits and then 3, I first saw many more, but I was wrong. And I looked into detail. There were 200, of course, occurrences of pengine, more than 200, but not meaning maybe. And then, okay, labuda, labda, very many, yumkini, also a little examples. So now we can look at the huenda. Mkewe akamwambia bwana mwache aende mtoto tujaribu, huenda tukapata tukalitenda au tutakosa. So maybe we will be able to eat dates, or maybe we will not be able to eat them. And then from poetry, the pengine, those are actually the ones from Eleanor, the only ones where I'm really sure it's perhaps, and because also in the translation he translates it as perhaps, or I hope I can be sure. Then, okay, then there's the yamkini and labuda also. But so pengine, so there's hardly any hits. So only unsure about two in this Alan and in these epic poems, and then in the early ones, the Johnson 1930, I found this with twice pengine, and I'm not really sure. So it could be that, so tena hawakuwa na yale maarifa katika kazi ya kutawala ya kuwavuta wajaribu kushinda mataifa mengine ili wapate kuyatawala pengine watu wengine. So I'm not sure whether it is, so maybe elsewhere other people. So then it would be, which is a really nice example, I think, so I was happy about it, I wanted to show it. And then but what you mostly find, and it's a precursor to this kind of epistemic possibility adverbs, as here I put a reference to Rasmus 2025, is that you get these, so like here, ni damu moja na wahinda, yani wale wanaoitwa pengine wahima na pengine wahuma. So they are called, okay, so they are called once or sometimes and or somewhere and elsewhere. And then huenda, I'm going to put all of these there already. So huenda, I already talked about huenda here a long time ago. So what we see there is this, you have in the older, so what you see here schematically is the blue ones, is the lexical meaning, also the orange ones, but then in a double verb construction. So an elephant goes and dies, there it's just usually going. And then you get the green ones, is where the combination of huenda and ka expresses epistemic possibility. And then you see, in the end, it becomes an adverb. It goes to the left periphery and is separated from the verb. So how did it happen? Well, this habitual, what are the contributors? Well, the habitual, there is this connection between habituality, imperfectivity, and epistemic possibility. It's also pointed out by Contact-induced. And then the enda is this verb, you could say it's a light verb, but it also includes a lot of meanings, and it can also mean what Johnson says is make its way occur, having use be possible. And then, of course, there's also the ka. And the ka has been analyzed in very, very different ways. So there's emotional ka, there's speculative ka. There's also this idea that it's a circumstantial ka, like he. But we haven't agreed between us on that yet. But I would think I like subjective as a dependent tense, similar to the infinitive, but expressing a contingent relation and therefore a level of uncertainty. And that's also something that is already said by Leonard 1980. So all these things contribute to the epistemic possibilities to reading. I should skip that there are many complex verbal constructions in Swahili that have ka, and it's always something with uncertainty, epistemic possibility. These are really very nice examples, I don't have time. Then labda, so that's not an inherent one like huenda or pengine. It's clearly from Arabic origin. You can find it in, there you see it in this Square's dictionary. It comes from la, Buddha, so negation and escape, so there's no way out, there's no escape, and that's the accusative form with the a, because of the negation before, and that's recognized. So Sartre also says like it comes from Arabic, and many other people say it comes from Arabic. So if you have this idea of inescapability, that you think it's more than necessity, but it expresses actually, labuda expresses maybe, but other expressions we would do express as epistemic necessity, like Hana Udi Kuacha, Pombe, she must stop drinking. So there's no escape stopping drinking. Now, so there appears to be, there's both formal weakening because you have labuda, and it becomes so, even if that's from Knappers, but not, it's there, it's epistemic necessity, but so you have the full form labuda, but also labuda, the merged form, but still with the vowel, and then in Welten, you see labuda and labda in one and the same publication, so with the syncope also. And then there seems to be sort of semantic weakening because in the Arabic it was epistemic necessity, and then you see in Swahili this epistemic possibility, which is not an uncommon evolution, but when and how did it happen? That is not so clear, because this possibility function of labda is long-standing. The earliest grammars already did maybe. So there's all these references, and then you see that in Omani Arabic, you find that it also expresses perhaps. So maybe you just say in already meaning, maybe, and there wasn't any change in Swahili, but then Alan says that in verse and in some modern idiom it contains some feeling of its own meaning this epistemic necessity. So like labuda ni mekuambia, you have no excuse, I have told you. And in the translations of the La Buddha, this full form, and La Buddha in Knappert, it's also epistemic necessity. And then there's Mwini, this northern Swahili dialect, which actually in the Kisebert and Arashek dictionary has both forms. So you have labda, perhaps maybe, and La Buddha, which is must. With an example, afterlife there must be a death, so which is this epistemic necessity. So both ones, a possible hypothesis, and then I stop, and I have very little to conclude. So a possible hypothesis is that it enters in Swahili with its epistemic domain, but that now and again it borrows from classical Arabic the labuda again with this epistemic necessity meaning. So, yeah, complicated, sorry, but that could be a possible explanation. So, as something Sarah, it's work in progress and there's help needed. We should make them visible, at least, so we can see them. But those of us in the audience, do prepare your questions and answers. I'll see if I can we see these people? Maybe, yes? Okay, that would be very good. Do we have any questions? I have to admit I'm completely ignorant in terms of the content of the corpus, but I wonder, I try to think about the profile of the people who are writing, so in the beginning versus now, and I'm wondering, I think about people who might have learned Swahili as a second language, or might be very well represented from the coast, being more represented in the written works that are early, and then as time goes on, you get more representation from, this is like upcountry Swahili, so we're learning Swahili as a second language in different contexts. Have you guys had a conversation about that being a variable that could possibly be controlled or not, or is that? And that's what we have a conversation about it. I don't know whether we can control it, we are aware of it.
Okay, well, that's the
yeah.
two, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ukiweza naomba uje huku mbele uongee kwenye nani kwenye sawa.
Weza, you say is Arabic or what?
Yeah.
Arabic?
Yes.
From which?
Rasmus, you should. So the question is, Rasmus, the weza, but it comes from Arabic.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that's actually a difficult one as well. It's just as complex as with labda. Can you hear me, by the way? Yes. Yeah, so the story is actually that this is from the Swahili-Mods, and they trace weza to ezi, as in when you move what these words to power is acknowledged in Arabic. So it doesn't have the possibility being in Arabic, so one would have to also assume a quite complex loan incorporation in Swahili. So that's actually also one of those kind of, the jury is a bit out. It could be from this Arabic stem, ezi stem, or it could be from, I think I had this idea about geza, which means measure, and these kind of things, which would also work from a historical perspective. But so the aza ezi root is I think it's the I and Z would be the Arabic root, but I'm not an expert in Arabic, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I know Arabic language, but the word weza, I know in Swahili, Mwenyezi Mungu, I know that. Yeah. With power, but if original is Arabic, I'm not sure. Not sure about that. Maybe.
So yeah.
Maybe I will.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. I made a shortcut there because I wanted to send it.
Yeah.
Where there's different hypotheses. One of them is indeed that it entered via.
So thank you. I make a research maybe for that also.
This is correct.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you just mentioned this comes into my mind. I know of some languages in Central Tanzania. Adza is a copula. Adza, so Adza can be used as a copula to express it in the language that I work on pastime. So perhaps
Adza is the name of the maybe Sifa, the goat, and is Adza. I know.
Yes, and then of course we have other Bantu languages in Central Tanzania that have Adza that means something in terms of time. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe this is.
Maybe this is.
Isn't that the converb, no? Pardon? No. Yes, Rasmus, go ahead. Sorry, I just I got very the outside. Isn't that the oh no yeah, it's from Bungwe and when they have this kind of, it means yeah, that's true. But it can come, of course, from that Z root, but in other languages it has become highly grammaticalized, and in languages that I work with, this is a tense marker, right? So I don't know. I mean, that might just be something else to throw into the mix there. No, but with the consonant and the vowel here at this point, right? So, do we have any other thoughts or questions in the room? I've always considered myself more of a Swahili punk than a Swahili mod, but I think it's a good title all the same. If we have no other feedback or comments or questions, then all that remains is to thank our speakers, and maybe we can take more up with them in the parties. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maud.